6 fan arts round 2, let's go. Hello and welcome back to Jenna Gets Creative. If you missed my previous 6 fan arts video, be sure to check that one out after this. Or before, doesn't really matter. I'll make sure it's linked in the end card and in the description. The hashtag 6 fan arts challenge was started on Instagram by Melissa Caprillion at mcaprillion art. Again, sorry Melissa if I'm mispronouncing your surname. I reproduced the 6 rectangular blanks grid template on a 9x12 sheet of Canson XL mixed media paper, and I asked you guys all over social media which characters I should draw. Last time I did Tiana and Naveen from Disney's The Princess and the Frog using my Faber-Castell Gold Faber pencils, and Unico from The Marvelous Adventures of Unico in Copic markers. Last time I told you which characters were left and asked which mediums I should use next, and you guys overwhelmingly voted for watercolors and gouache. So today we're tackling Yoda in watercolors and Captain Amelia in gouache. Spoiler, Captain Amelia ended up being more of a mixed media effort, but I did start with gouache as an underpainting. I'll get around to why when we talk about her. First, I'm doing Yoda, and this was both so much fun and very intimidating. I didn't want to mess him up. As you may or may not know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I have been since I was a little kid. I stumbled across VHS copies of the original trilogy at a movie rental store back in the 90s, with no prompting or preemptive knowledge passed on from my parents or grandparents about the franchise. I rented them and watched them over and over and over. I started looking for all the expanded universe books at thrift shops, ordered the children's books from the monthly Scholastic book order flyers school sent out, and begged for Star Wars posters to put up in my room. My town built a brand new 19-screen cinema just in time to run The Phantom Menace as the opening headline feature, and they somehow managed to acquire a genuine Stormtrooper costume and still have it on display in a big glass case in the adult-only lounge, which I totally snuck into as a teenager just to see the suit. And I'm really glad I was the age I was when The Phantom Menace came out. I was old enough to appreciate Qui-Gon Jinn and really enjoy the story Lucas was trying to tell with Episode 1 without being too annoyed by Jar Jar Binks, because I was still young enough to be more forgiving of silly characters. By the way, has anyone ever heard the theory that Jar Jar was meant to be a Sith and it was going to be a big plot twist reveal in Episode 2? But when Lucas and his team realized how poorly the character was received, they squashed that because it wasn't going to make the impact they wanted. It actually makes a lot more sense. Jar Jar's too lucky to actually be a clumsy, bumbling idiot. It makes so much more sense that it's an act. But let's talk about the artwork. I drew Yoda from a promo image from the prequel trilogy where he's holding his lightsaber poised to attack. My favorite Star Wars poster that I ever had was Yoda attacking toward the viewer, wielding this lightsaber, and the caption on the poster was "Do or do not. There is no try." So yeah, I decided if I was doing Yoda, I was going to do him holding his lightsaber, about to do something badass. I was nervous every time it was time to darken the lines on his face because I didn't want to end up with something too comical. I wanted it to look like shadows, not war paint. And at some points as it was developing, I thought it might go the wrong way. Fortunately, watercolor is a fairly forgiving medium in that you can soften things, and it also dries a bit lighter than it looks wet, so it's usually not as stark as it first looks. With the exception of a little bit of a red-brown Van Gogh pen, this is completely done in my old Thomas Kincaid watercolors. They're still kicking, and they re-wet beautifully. These paints are 16 years old. I really like how the background came out quite smoky, and I'm happy with the glow coming off the lightsaber. I think his robes look a tad unfinished, and the white I left for his wispy hair looks a little more clumpy than I intended. If I were to do this piece again on its own on a larger piece of proper watercolor paper, I would definitely put more effort into all the little details. Overall, I think it feels like a slightly more realistic and painterly take on the Clone Wars animated series aesthetic. Our second fan art today is Captain Amelia from Disney's Treasure Planet. The suggestion I used to fill this rectangle was just Treasure Planet, and I was originally going to do Jim, but I couldn't find a reference image I liked. The promo images are so over-rendered that it doesn't really look like the movie character, but then the still screenshots from the movie itself strike me as too simplified. I'm not entirely sure how or why he looks so much better moving around on screen, given that those stills are what makes up the animation, but there's definitely something about the character that I didn't think I was going to be able to capture in a tiny, quick illustration played playing media roulette on mediocre paper. So I went with my next favorite character from the film, Captain Amelia. She's a humanoid cat, captain of the ship Jim and Delbert hire, and oh so sassy. I love a good strong female character in a leadership role, and I think she's the best version of the ship captain in any Treasure Planet adaptation I've ever come across, including the Muppets versions, which are epic because Tim Curry.
Easy, Jim. 'Tis all in good fun. Pleased I am to initiate you into our enterprising, company.
Upstage, lads! This is my only number. Now take Sir Francis Drake. The Spanish all despise him, but to the British he's a hero and they idolize him. It's how you look at buccaneers that makes them bad or good. And I see us as members of a noble brotherhood. Hup!
Hey ho ho!
Oh, I love
On the road,
it! 'Tis
oh, man.
poetry in
And
motion.
before we lose our tempers, we will always count to 10.
On occasion, there may be someone you have to execute.
But when you're a professional pirate, you don't have to wear a suit.
I think Treasure Planet suffers from the same fatal flaw as The Phantom Menace. An annoying supporting character that utterly ruins rewatching as an adult. Treasure Planet's little robot character Ben, an allegory for the original story's Ben Gunn, is absolutely annoying. It's like someone tried to take Robin Williams' character from Robots, have someone else do it, and dropped it into a completely incompatible world and storyline. That and the trailers spoiled the whole thing. Despite those things, Treasure Planet holds a special place in my heart. The artwork put into the settings is stunning. Jim's struggles were really made relevant to teens of the time. The chemistry between Jim and Silver is, as Captain Amelia would say, spot on. This movie sparked my love for the steampunk genre and aesthetic before I knew what steampunk was. And on top of all that, the soundtrack. I've been a huge fan of the Goo Goo Dolls forever, so to have John Resnick work on the project, yes please. Honestly, I annoy my husband and get annoyed myself when we put this on for Kiddo, because I get so into singing along with I'm Still Here that I never remember the movie plays an abridged version. I start singing lyrics that got cut out. So at this point with the footage, we're probably quite a ways into fussing with the gouache, and I want to explain why it clearly wasn't working too well and why I ended up going mixed media on this one. First of all, remember this is mixed media paper, not watercolor paper. It's thinner, it warps and buckles more, and because of the grid, I couldn't really have it evenly secured all around this little piece. Second, I was using gouache from pans. It wasn't sold in pans, I put it there, not knowing that cheap gouache generally doesn't reactivate as nicely. The pigment I was putting on the paper kept drying very patchy. You'll notice the blue of her uniform and the pink of her skin went down a lot more opaque, and that's because those pens are higher quality gouache. Still not perfect though. If this is the first you're seeing of my work and you need proof that I can make gouache look good, take a look at both of my teeny weeny art challenge pieces from this year and the No Box Art Box video from last year where I painted the tiger face I'm currently using as my channel art banner. Those were all fresh from the tube gouache on canvas and it works so much nicer. So to save the look of the piece, I went over everything except the background in pencil. I used mostly the gold fibers that I used on Tiana, with the exception of a cream pencil from Derwent Colorsoft. I wasn't very careful or consistent because all I needed was another layer of color that I could smudge around and even things out. Finally, I finished it all off with lines using a black brush pen and eye highlights using a white gel pen. It looks better on camera than it did in person under the bright lights on my desk, but it photographs beautifully out of direct light with no glare on the wax of the pencil pigments. Let me know which of the two pieces today was your favorite and which Star Wars and Treasure Planet characters you like best. Part 3 will come out soon, and I've got Wandering Oaken from Frozen and Heihei from Moana left. I'm definitely going to try Conté crayons for Wandering Oaken, but I'm open to suggestions on what I should use to color Heihei. Maybe liquid inks? Let me know. If you're looking for more to watch, I've got some suggestions up on the left side of the screen now. I upload art content twice a week at minimum, every Tuesday and Thursday, and if you like living life creatively, whatever that means to you, I'd love to have you along for the ride. Bye guys!